Hey, this is the start of the third video and second lecture. Um, Remember to grab a notebook and pen or pencil, take appropriate notes, stop the recording when you need extra time, and remember to write down any questions you might have that we can go over in class tomorrow. We're going to finish the later three signposts, so this will be 4, 5, and 6. Signpost number 4, Words of the Wiser. Words of the Wiser is the advice or insight a wiser character, often older, offers about life to the main character. Think of Yoda. Think of Morpheus in The Matrix. Think of Mufasa in The Lion King. The words that they provide often become central to the theme and plot. Technically, in the stories that we've read so far, we haven't actually had any words of the wiser. So not these don't all show up in um every single story we read. And in fact, I don't know how much they even show up in End of Claire we created. But if you do find something, let me know, and if you from any of the stories that we've read, let me know, and I'll give you 5 extra credit points. Because I couldn't think of any words of the wiser specifically in any of those stories that we've read so far. I do have, if you leave this video, you will see a video that I posted from YouTube. It's basically a 7-minute clip, and it just has like tons of words of the wiser that show up in popular movies. So if you want to watch some of that, by all means, feel free to do so. Whenever you do see words of the wiser, even in a movie, book, or TV show, think about what is the life lesson and how might it affect the character. These words of the wiser usually always suggest a theme. They also help the reader think about the theme in the context of the character's life. And ideally, it also helps the reader think about the theme in the context of their own life as well. Signpost number 5, again and again. Before we continue, I want you to, if you have any questions about Word of the Wiser, take a moment to write those down as well. Okay, now I'll continue with signpost number 5 again and again. This is one of the most important signposts. There is very rarely a story in which we don't see this specific signpost, and we will see it a ton in End of Claire we created. These are events, images, or particular words that recur over the portion of an entire novel or story. Sometimes this will be a word used in an odd way over and over again. Sometimes it will be an image that shows up both literally and symbolically. Just a little bit about me. Last year, I took a class at at Westchester University, a graduate class, and I wrote a 15-page essay on the use of the word eyes, EYES, like the eyes that you used to see, in a specific play. I looked at every time that that word or that image of eyesight showed up in that play, and I was able to come to a really deep and interesting thought about that play and how it connected to the theme, enough that I was able to easily write a 15-page paper out of it. So this is one of those where no matter what, you will always be looking at what occurs again and again in a story. Some of the more obvious examples that we've seen in everyday use are the house, the concept of heritage. Even though the word heritage is only used once, the concept of what is heritage pretty much comes up every chance that possibly could. Names come up a lot in that story as well. In the wife story, one of the big ones that I noticed was smells, the concept of smelling something. Now, the obvious reason is because they are wolves, but I think you can even explore that even further with the concept of theme in the story's themes as well, not just the plot. So, questions that follow: why would the author bring this up again and again? If you see something reoccurring, why would this happen? Why would the author keep bringing this up? And it often offers insight into character motivation or the theme and encourages readers to speculate on that insight. So it's kind of like symbol chasing, but it doesn't even have to be symbols. It could just be something that is constantly, you always have to keep thinking about it. Often it is symbolic, but it's not always symbolic. Take a moment, write down any questions you might have about again and again. All right, and that brings us to our final signpost, a memory moment. Memory moment is a recollection by a character that interrupts the forward progress of the story. This is very obvious when we have flashbacks, but it could also be a single line or a single paragraph. I brought up everyday use with this one because everyday use has so many examples. The whole first half of the story is one giant flashback. But Mama constantly goes back into her memories. So the first example that I have here is clearly from the flashback. It's in the middle of a flashback. She chooses to tell us this detail. And the other two examples, however, on the right, happen in the middle of the action in the present day. The first one reveals us pretty important information both about Wangara, Wardi, and about Mama. And the second one really connects to the major theme of heritage and how Mama is always thinking about where she came from, even though Dee says that she doesn't. So, obviously, when you see a memory, whether it's a single line, or whether it's a whole paragraph, or whether it's a whole flashback that's taking up multiple pages, think about why this memory is important. That often explains the character's motivations. Something from their past influences the way they're thinking in the present or acting in the present. But it could also reveal a theme. What is the relationship? And always ask yourself this. What is the relationship between the memory and the character or the plot? How does the memory affect the character? How does the memory affect the plot? This concludes the video. But I want you guys to make sure you go back into your notes and make sure you got everything that you need. Make sure you understand, reread all your notes, and make sure after you close these videos that you understand everything you wrote down. Maybe even come back in like a half hour and then read your notes. See if you still understand them. If you don't, go back into the video or make sure you write down some questions that you might have. Any other questions, make sure you write them down. We can go over them tomorrow in class. But most importantly, think about where these signposts might have shown up in And of Claire we created. There might be a few, like Words of the Wiser or Tough Questions, that are hard to figure out. But I bet you can all think already of contrasts and contradictions, aha moments, agains and agains, and memory moments quite easily when you think of this text. When we come back into an end of Claire we created, we're going to focus specifically on these notes, these signposts, to help us maybe understand the story even deeper than we already do. Thank you so much for watching these videos. Have a great night.